The Phillips curve is a notorious economic theory from the 1950s, which asserts that there is an inverse relationship between wage inflation and unemployment. This soon became a mainstay of economic theory and policy, with one chancellor, Norman Lamont, infamously describing unemployment as a price well worth paying to tame inflation. The Phillips curve was soon generalized to suggest a trade-off between unemployment and price inflation, with low unemployment being inflationary and high unemployment deflationary. Inflation and its control became embedded in Keynesian macroeconomics, with policymakers asserting that, in the short run, the Phillips curve could justify reducing unemployment through transient rises in inflation. However, in the long run, Milton Friedman and Edmund Phelps argued that such a trade-off is only temporary, as the non-accelerating inflation rate of unemployment, or NIRU, can have dire inflationary consequences if seeking to push unemployment below a mathematically derived threshold. However, the accidental economist views such analyses as noisy at best and misleading at worst, given the non-linear convergence of many factors on inflation, including tariffs, investment, business taxes, and interest rates. So attempting to reduce the problem to two factors is murky, especially given the noise in the data. Here, we offer an alternative argument as to why the Phillips curve is essentially redundant beyond idealized and constrained economic models. We compare the Phillips curve to Boyle's law, which simply states that the pressure and volume of a gas have an inverse relationship within a constrained system, where if the volume increases, then pressure decreases, and vice versa when the temperature is held constant. We argue that the Phillips curve may only apply under certain, theoretical closed system conditions, and that when the system is open in situations of unconstrained migration, the expected inverse relationship between unemployment and inflation will not hold. Thus, with free migration, the economic system can be said to be open, and so the observed relationship between unemployment and inflation may weaken or even dissipate altogether. The Phillips curve traditionally assumes a closed labor market in which the population is stable, and the labor supply is fixed in the short run. However, the supply of skilled labor is rarely constant. Thus, if migration is unrestricted, the labor supply becomes elastic, and workers can flow in or out of the economy in response to wage incentives or opportunities, and vice versa. We attempt to evaluate the validity of the Phillips curve using data from two economies, one with relatively relaxed migration, and the other with a considerably stricter immigration policy over the same time frame. Since the UK joined the European Economic Community in 1973, it has continued to facilitate the flow of cheaper migrant labour from Europe and its former colonies, depressing unit labour costs and inflation, even though this might be suggested to cause unemployment among resident workers. The data presented shows the relationship between unemployment and inflation in the UK. While there is an apparent correlation between rises in unemployment and falls in inflation from the 1980s to the mid to 1990s, for most of the other 40 years, there is little or no apparent correlation. If we perform the same analysis for Australia, the pattern becomes far more cyclical and intermittent, suggesting some plausibility in the short run in this tighter immigration model. For Australia, the relationship is more chaotic, with some periods lasting several years, showing the expected trade-off. While this analysis does not invalidate the Phillips curve entirely, it does suggest that monetary and fiscal policies based on it may be less effective or predictable in more open labor markets. Clearly, the arguments are complex and multifactorial, and several nuances might be considered. For instance, migration may take time to respond to labor market signals, and there may be considerable lags before impacts in responses to changes in fiscal or immigration policy are observed on the ground. In an increasingly mobile world, where mass migration is the norm, the question remains as to whether the Phillips curve retains its relevance to today's economic models.